All right, we're gonna go ahead and get things started. Thank you everybody for being here. Really appreciate y'all showing up, hanging out, and I'm excited to talk a lot today about cultivating confidence. So this is not commands to be run, but a bit of an outline. I tried to make the talk a little more technical by having some analogies in here, but these are sort of the different sections that we'll be going through. My name is Nate, and sometimes I code. I've been a web developer for 17 years. And much of that time, I was a manager, a leader of engineers. I've been a founding engineer. I've built 4 teams over my career. And I'm really passionate about how we do engineering together and how we help those around us be better engineers, be more confident in themselves. And ultimately, that's what leads to the most powerful teams. So thank you, everyone, for being here. The first thing we're going to talk about, it's always good to read the man pages, right? We're all good developers. We know to look at the docs. We know to read the manual. So first off, we're going to do a little bit of definitions. What are we talking about? Man confidence, right? These are the man pages. So what do you mean? There's a couple different things we think of when we talk about confidence. First could be social confidence. How do you enter a room? How do you join a conversation? How do you conduct yourself at parties? The second is individual technical confidence. This is how confident we are in our abilities as engineers. This is one we probably run up against the most in our day-to-day work. Am I confident that I can follow these instructions and get the thing to compile? Am I confident that I know the right commands to get to the next step? And the third is communal confidence. Now, this third one is what I'm going to be talking about for a lot of today. And I certainly don't see my speaker notes on the screen. So let me see if I can fix that. There we go. I definitely know how to keynote. So yeah, today we'll be primarily focusing on the third one. That's because my hypothesis is that we as humans are fundamentally collaborative beings. In one way or another, every one of us has the capacity to work alongside other awesome humans to accomplish more than we could alone. That's the core of engineering teams. It's the core of what I'm talking about. So I really want to focus on that communal confidence and how we can help one another. Now, I will pause for a minute to address these first two because the long and short of it is simple and the same. To gain these kinds of confidence as an individual, you really need one thing: reps. Ultimately, all confidence is built in small steps. To gain this, you need to stress your muscles, feel uncomfortable, and struggle, and see it through. When you go through those steps, confidence develops over time. Neither of these are built overnight, and they both simply require you to show up consistently. So the first thing I want to say is do what you're doing today. If you're at this conference, pat yourself on the back, because even steps like this, even going to in-person events, every instance like that is helping you build and develop that confidence. And if you keep doing this, you're going to look back years later and be stunned at how much you've accomplished and how far you've come. So a lot of my talk is inspired, my talk in its entirety was inspired by this TED Talk by Brittany Packnett. And it's an incredible talk. It's on YouTube. I'll have a URL in the slides, but I highly recommend it. It's a 10-minute talk. It goes into her story and goes into the importance of confidence. So I'm going to be borrowing from her. I'll have to double check the license if it's MIT or AGPL, but we're going to start with her definition because I really love how she first presents the problem here. Now, this is a Brittany Packnett quote, but I broke it up for the slides, so we're doing it like Twitter thread style. It may sound simple, but confidence is something that we underestimate the importance of. We treat it like a nice-to-have instead of a must-have. We place value on knowledge and resources above what we deem to be the soft skill of confidence. But by most measures, we have more knowledge and more resources now than at any other point in history, and still injustice abounds and challenges persist. If knowledge and resources were all that we needed, we wouldn't still be here. And I think this is so critical because I really do more and more in my career, and as I'm leading engineers, I've learned we're usually not lacking these things too much in the modern age. It is so accessible, but we need that confidence to build, to progress, and to practice. So what does confidence mean, right? What's the definition? Well, once again, I'm going to steal, for the purposes of this talk, I'm going to steal this quote from Brittany, and I want us to think about this, try to reframe it as this. Confidence is the necessary spark before everything that follows. Confidence is the difference between being inspired and actually getting started, between trying and doing until it's done. Confidence helps us keep going even when we fail. And this last bit is particularly important because, as we all know, we will fail. And it's important that you understand that as part of the journey, because not only is it part of the journey, but that's part of what builds confidence. Winston Churchill put it really good. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. And if I had to hack his quote for this talk a little bit, I would go ahead and put confidence in there. It's the confidence to continue that really counts. So, let's look at our directory structure, right? Let's look into the source here a little bit. What are the components of confidence? What's the structure? What's it look like? Let's get into these directories. So first off, confidence needs permission. And this is something that's frequently granted by others, by those around us. We give others permission to be confident when we walk alongside them and we encourage them, we guide them, we let them learn from our example. But ultimately, you need permission for confidence to be birthed. The second is community. Community is where confidence can be built. It's where you can try on confidence. In communities is where we have others around us that make us feel confident in ourselves, that demonstrate confidence that we can start to wear ourselves and start to try on. And finally, curiosity. We need this curiosity to continue delving into new things, learning new techniques, and ultimately to affirm our confidence. So to recap, permission births confidence, community nurtures confidence, and curiosity affirms confidence. And I've seen this play out so many times at different companies and different teams. It really is true, and in particular, I want us to look at this and think, not only how am I going to develop confidence myself, but what steps can I take to increase the confidence of everybody around me? How can I be developing that confidence in others? So I really like Bun. I went with Bun here. I don't know if you like other things. They've got cool APIs. I thought this was a fun analogy. So we're going to Bun build confidence. What does it look like to actually build confidence? Let's get into it. And so when I say this, we're going to build those buns. I mean, we're going to get those reps in. I mean, we're going to build confidence. So a couple tactical tips. The first step is shadowing. When we let others watch us work, we lend them some of our confidence. Not only are we working through problems they might not have the technical ability to work through, but we are demonstrating confidence. We get to practice, even if you don't realize it, you have a whole skill set you're going to be confident in. Just you working with somebody else, they get a chance to absorb some of that confidence by osmosis. They watch you type in 5 commands, it blows their mind the first time, they get into the project, they get into the SDLC, a couple weeks later, they're going to run those exact same commands that you were running, and they're going to remember that confidence that you had. So just by working alongside others, especially when we have new teammates, especially when we have junior developers, that is the first step that can be really critical. Is as simple as just pair them up with somebody, invite them along, start a pairing call. If you're going to work on a feature that's adjacent to a feature a junior was working on, they're interested, they have some of the code base, ping them and see if they want to join for a pairing call. And a great way of doing this that I am particularly a fan of is to build in public. This is something that I think is fantastic, not just for helping others and broadening your audience of people you can be sharing confidence with, but also to try on confidence yourself, right? A lot of times we can go for weeks and weeks and months at a time only interacting with people on our team. It can be really helpful to go and get on Twitter, get on LinkedIn, get on YouTube or Twitch and do some streaming and just build stuff in public. Share that journey, share that experience with others. Not only are you giving more opportunity for others to absorb your confidence, but you're getting those reps in to continue building it yourself. And something that's important here is be frank and open about your own insufficiencies. So when you're doing something like this, just as much as confidence is contagious, so is a lack of confidence. And most of the time when that happens, it's because we are ourselves feeling unconfident. That can be contagious, that can spread. The worst thing here is to let that fear impact how you interact with others. It's important that you don't pair code with a junior flawlessly prepared every single time. just as important as them seeing those commands and seeing the happy path when you're knocking it out of the park and hitting all your code on the first time, it's important that they see you struggle. And so when you struggle, when you hit those walls, as we all do, don't cover it up, don't make excuses, don't explain it away. Because remember, even though we each lack confidence in ourselves, every step of the journey, you may still feel unconfident. There's others that are way earlier in their journey. And if you try by your own weakness in that moment, if you try to cover that up or diminish it or even diminish your own accomplishments, this is a really common with senior engineers, we're really good at talking ourselves down. We get very self-deprecating oftentimes. Don't do that around juniors. If you're at level 10 in this code base and you're slinging a bunch of stuff and you miss one small thing, if you proclaim that you're an idiot, how's that junior developer going to feel, right? So it's important. You're going to hit walls. You're going to have struggles. Work through them and be honest about it. You know, when you're jumping in on something you haven't done before, well, never done this before. No clue how it's going to go, but let's dig in. Be clear about those things as you're working with others because it's important that they see every engineer, every developer, we all struggle with the same stuff. Let them learn how you build confidence. So I spoke to this a bit already, but it's the idea of leading by example, and it also leads to a lot of education by proximity. This is something with my teams, I always tried to make pair coding goals for junior developers where they were supposed to spend a couple hours a week pair coding with people. And that encouraged them not only to go and seek out those opportunities, but I also repeated it in front of the whole team all the time. It was a shared team value. We want to be coding together. We want to be working together. Even if you have no idea what that guy's working on, if it's in our wheelhouse, if this is under our umbrella of work that we cover, go and follow along for a bit. Because even if you're just watching them do stuff, you will be building that confidence up and learning a little bit along the way. And ultimately, by doing this, we help other engineers become more competent as they're doing that learning. And ultimately, that leads to more of that individual technical confidence that we're hitting at. You really want them to feel confident in their abilities. Not that they'll always have the right answer, but that they'll have the right pathway ahead even when their answer is not correct. So how else do we build confidence? This is my favorite part. We get into the social bit. So Bun is a great library. It's got a lot of stuff. It can also serve WebSockets. This isn't the command line Bun library, but this is the APIs they have. It's a whole lot of stuff. It's really fun. I'm getting into it. But this is a WebSocket, so it's a social connection, right? This is we're going to serve a WebSocket so others can connect and we can absorb confidence. This is that social bit that I was talking about. So again, the self-confidence is built iteratively in victory. And that's those reps we were talking about. But it's important to note it's also built in defeat. When you do hit a wall, when you do find the edge of your limits, not only is that going to give you confidence when you work your way through it, because we always fall on our face and it's getting back up that's going to build that confidence, but also later when you succeed. If we always failed, we wouldn't value the success. So cherish the failures as well, because then when you do succeed, when you do overcome that trial, that's a lesson in confidence that you get to cherish now. The second is gifted confidence. And this is a lot of what I'm talking about today. We can speak confidence into others, and we can create space for others to try confidence on. And this is one that I think is really critical, is that like those pair coding sessions, like inviting developers along, it's just as important to create spaces. The open spaces here at that conference are a great example. Discords with other developers. I know a lot of Discord communities where developers will get on, they'll hop in a voice channel, have mics off, just be pair coding, right? I've been blown away by how effective some of these communities are and some of the really junior and younger developers. I know developers that are 18, 19 years old in high school, and they're learning in these Discord communities, and they blow me out of the water with TypeScript. I mean, seriously, there's some incredibly talented people in this generation. I don't have any hope for a job in a few years, but I'm so grateful that they've found these communities because that's where you build the confidence. And third, the community confidence. I guess I was kind of speaking to this, but community gives more opportunity for victories to be recognized and celebrated. Another example here that I absolutely love is Twitter Spaces. I started using Twitter Spaces like 2 years ago, I think, and it stunned me by how accessible so many people in the world are. It's so cool to get on and have somebody from Japan, somebody from West Africa, and somebody from Europe all talking together. But I also noticed My favorite space I think I've ever come across is a guy called Tim Brown, and he hosts a confident speaking space every Saturday. So public speaking is a very terrifying thing for many people, myself included. I could tell you I've been totally confident this whole week, but it would be a lie. But I love this space because Tim invites people on stage. He says, if you've never spoken in a space before, if you've never done public speaking, please grab the mic, because that's what we're here to do. And there's little exercises they have. He has scripts that you practice reading. He'll give prompts and questions. But every Saturday, Tim shows up online, and that community has exploded. He has hundreds of listeners sometimes. And I've heard so many people go to that space to try on confidence. And I've heard from many of those same individuals how impactful that was for them in their journey. So next, I want to give a quote from my friend Jason Lengstorf. If you don't know Jason, you should. Learn with Jason is the name of his podcast. He streams, he makes YouTube videos. And this is a YouTube video that he has called The Big Secret About Building Confidence. And I love this one quote that he has in here because it really gets at that kind of getting the reps in, getting the small wins. Every victory is small, time is long, careers are long, and very, very vanishingly few people are actually overnight successes. Most of what we see as an overnight success is somebody who's been at this for years, who finally built up enough success that they had the network to get the breakthrough. And that is so easy to overlook. It's so easy to get discouraged by, especially in the age of social media. We definitely see the success, right? People are really good at demonstrating when the success is there. It's really hard to understand and learn all of the work and all of the effort and all of the reps that went into that. He finishes by saying, confidence is built on this consistent chain of victories that are all small, but each one is a tiny bit bigger than the one before it. I want everybody to really focus on that. It's easy for us to explain away our own successes. It's easy for us to explain away our own competence. I was talking about senior engineers doing this before, but it's so common. You ignore that huge foundation of knowledge, right? We've built up all these things. I'm flying through the terminal. In my mind, I'm like, this is 6 Linux commands. There's no big deal to this. Somebody who's never used the CLI before, they watch and they have no idea what's going on. Again, don't dismiss how far you've come. Don't dismiss your own abilities. It's just really critical that, now I'm realizing slides I've forgotten probably, but one of the things that I like talking about, other than drinking water so that I can continue speaking, one of the things that's really hard about this is that every one of us is the person with the most knowledge on our journey. And every one of us, or many of us, are quite often our own worst critic. So this combination is extremely dangerous because we know the exact details of every victory and failure that has been up until this point, and we often don't think we deserve it. We often don't think we are good enough. We don't believe that we should be confident sometimes. And just that simple belief can be a huge wall to so much of this progress happening. Because others will talk to us, and others will encourage us, and we rob them of their opportunity to convey confidence and to share confidence with us by explaining away whatever it is they're complimenting. I have a video script that I'm working on talking about imposter syndrome, and that was where I really felt this because imposter syndrome, by definition, it says that imposter syndrome is the belief that you are incompetent despite external evidence of success. And I think that is the really critical part of the definition there, is sometimes we don't believe that we're competent, and sometimes we aren't competent. Imposter syndrome is when you have been successful, you have a track record, you have a job, you have an employer giving you a paycheck for doing that work. And when somebody's in that position, and they still, despite all of the external sources of validation, there is evidence that you are competent, we can dismiss all of that, ignore it, explain it away, throw it away, and that's why you feel like an imposter. It's not that you're lacking competence, and now it's that you even have that validation of competence. The syndrome, the issue, the problem at heart there is that you're too smart about everything you've done, so you will come up with the best excuses and the best reasons to explain away whatever that external validation is. That's the trap that we really have to be wary of. If somebody gives you a compliment, don't brush it away. Don't say, oh no, I didn't do anything. That's not helping you build confidence. And as I mentioned before, that's very easily robbing somebody else of potential competence. You know, that could be them giving very, very genuine feedback and they really truly believe. And you can not only hurt yourself, but you can hurt them in that moment if you're just like, no, it's actually nothing. This is total garbage. I should have been able to do way better. If you say that, they're going to now be discouraged even more for the step of the journey that they are at. All right, this is a fun little extra section of do not run. So this is some caveats as well as some things that we don't want to do. So first off, I want to talk about the difference between a couple things. There's some very closely related concepts here, but it's not quite the same. The first is competence. So what is the difference between confidence and competence? Because they're not the same thing. Now, hopefully, confidence is grounded in yourself. Everybody should feel the ability to have confidence. Everybody deserves to have confidence. Confidence should be grounded in yourself and your intrinsic value. No matter where you're at on your learning journey, no matter where you're at in your career, you can and should be confident. Competence develops over time. So there's a parallel track here, and all of us are going to be growing that. Competence, again, mostly comes to reps. It comes to learning. There's a whole bunch of ways we can get better at learning. We can work harder at that. But ultimately, you need to unlink the two in that you don't need full competence in some area or some field or some technical tool to have confidence in your ability to work in that tool. So they're not the same thing. Competence will continue developing. And another thing is sometimes we feel a false confidence. Now, a false confidence, if we're going off what we've said, and we have that definition of what confidence is from Brittany, false confidence is kind of like imposter syndrome. It's a lie. It's you lying to yourself, right? So if you're feeling false confidence, you're lying to yourself about the confidence you deserve to have. Now, if you root your confidence in your capabilities, then you end up in a tricky part because you might have false confidence, and oftentimes we do this in the positive as well. You might root your confidence in how competent you are, how skilled you are with the technology, and that can get you very far. There are many geniuses out there who operate for a long time on the confidence that they've built up from that technical competence. They won't feel false confidence often, but if they do, then it's actually false competence because they've linked those to be one-to-one, and anytime their competence fails them, their confidence will drop as well. We'll talk about another one here, humility. This is another very closely related concept. Some people would say, you know, what does it look like to have an extremely confident, humble person? And it sounds like a paradox, right? Some people might say, oh, that's an oxymoron. You know, why? If you're humble, are you confident? Yes, I say humility is orthogonal to confidence. So this is something I think is really important because humility is another dimension, and where you are on that, it interacts with confidence. So one thing that I will talk about is having a lot of pride or being very conceited, especially in our own abilities. That can be something that hurts the confidence of others. But ultimately, I believe that these are orthogonal things. It's not related. They're not intrinsically linked. And I really like a C.S. Lewis quote that was actually misattributed, but it's a wonderful quote. It says, humility is not thinking of yourself. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. I think this is really important as well because in organizations and teams, I believe humility is a very, very strong team attribute. That's something that when everybody in a team is practicing humility, it helps everybody have more confidence, right? It's doing more of that, inviting others into confidence. Now, this wasn't actually the quote. It got really popular because it was actually Rick Warren, I guess in one of his books, quoted it that way. I quoted it incorrectly in a couple talks or cited it incorrectly. But I went back and found the original C.S. Lewis quote that this is loosely based on. And I want to read this. This is a longer quote, so stick with me. But I really love the perspective that this gives on humility. Do not imagine that if you meet a really humble man, he will be what most people call humble nowadays. He will not be a sort of greasy, smarmy person who's always telling you that, oh, of course, he's nobody. Probably all you will think about him is that he seemed a cheerful, intelligent chap who took a real interest in what you said to him. If you do dislike him, it will be because you feel a little envious of anyone who seems to enjoy life so easily. He will not be thinking about humility. He will not be thinking about himself at all. So I think that's the bit that the other quote was kind of pulled out of. If anyone would like to acquire humility, I think, tell him the first step. The first step is to realize that one is proud, and a biggish step too. At least nothing whatever can be done before it. If you think you are not conceited, it means you are very conceited indeed. Really brilliant author. I think he's got a lot of good stuff, but I love that view at humility because I think it is kind of these intertwined things. Even though they're orthogonal, it's not the same thing. In particular, the community aspect. I think that humility is very important. As we're leading others, as we're teaching others, as we're coaching others, whether it is people who report to you or not, you can be doing this with your people you report to. There's no reason that we can't be sharing confidence with our managers, that we can't share confidence with our executives. I used to make a point to always try to grab my CEO after one of our town hall meetings if I saw him walking around, because he was a very, very smart man, super confident, look to him when you saw him walking around. But I knew from talking to him previously that he would walk out of these big presentation town hall meetings thinking terribly of himself. And so I would make a goal to catch him in the hallway at some point, any day there was one of these big talks, and just shake his hand and say, hey, Eric, you did a great job in the town hall today. I loved how clearly you set out this, this, and this. I really like the vision you conveyed about this. Most people think they're not allowed to do things like that with an executive, right? Many of us, depending on the side of your company, you may not be in a place to talk to them. Of course, if you're at Amazon or something, you probably won't bump into them in the hallway. This is a medium-sized enterprise, so a little more accessible. But don't forget that you can share confidence with people who are higher levels than you, with people that are more technically competent than you. It doesn't matter. Every single one of us can be affirmed and encouraged in our journey of confidence. So this is the real do not run bit. This is moving confidence to dev null. So what steals or prevents confidence? These are things to avoid, and these are things to be wary of in ourselves and in those around us. First of all is comparison. I think this is, again, in the age of social media, one of the hardest things. It can be very easy to compare ourselves to others. It can be very easy to look at what that dev is posting for their 50th day of 100 days of code and think, wow, I'm on day 75 and I'm nowhere near that. I have no idea how he did that. There's another quote that I don't have in here, but it's that comparison is the thief of joy. And I think that is it's even more than confidence. Comparison has the possibility to steal your joy. So be very wary whenever you find yourself comparing yourself to others. This was a big story time, I guess. I'm going faster than I thought, so I think I can take a little more time here. When I was in high school, I was probably same height I am now, so around 5'8", 5'10", and I was 130 pounds. So I was just stick thin, super scrawny kid. My nickname in high school with a couple friends, if I could call them that, was Hamster. I was so small they called me a hamster, and they'd just be like, oh, there goes Nate the hamster. That didn't make me feel very confident. Towards the end of high school, I started working out with my friend. And so I started going to the gym, I started lifting weights, I started eating unimaginable amounts of calories because that was what my body needed. I had a very fast metabolism, very skinny build, and I had to fight my body to work beyond that. I started going to the gym, and the first thing when you walk into a gym, and many may have felt this, if you're not a gym person and you walk into a gym, especially an LA Fitness like I was going to, that can be very intimidating. I was all excited to get my, lateral shoulder raises. I walk over, my buddy grabs the 25-pound weights. I'm like, all right, he's pretty strong. I'll grab the 15-pound weights. Couldn't do it. All right, let's grab the 10-pound weights. Oh, that's really hard. All right, I'm on the smallest weight they have in this gym. It's really easy to be discouraged when we're comparing ourselves to others. The only thing that kept me going to the gym was I told myself, I'm only going to compare myself to myself from the past. Every time I went, I wasn't thinking about the weight my buddy was doing. I was thinking about the weight that I did last week. I wasn't thinking about that bodybuilder who's standing next to me looking at himself in the mirror. I was looking at my own body in the mirror. If I was making gains, if I was making improvements, and if my weight was going up, I decided that's what I would focus on. And in development, it's the same thing. You cannot look at others and judge or grade your career, your learning journey, and your rate of success based on them. You have to remind yourself, every journey is different and unique, and again, we don't know their journey. You don't know how many hours they spent studying that language or studying those commands. You have no notion of that. So it's quite arrogant to look at any other developer in your career, in your company, anywhere else. It's unwise to compare yourself to them. It's going to hurt you in your confidence. It's also going to hurt you in creating these false expectations that could lead to imposter syndrome. So remember, compare yourself to yourself from the past, and that's it. Second is compliance. This is one for the managers. There's often moments that we have to be compliant. We have to make sure that our test suite passes. We have to make sure that we get the tickets closed. We have to make sure that we follow the right processes. When we are over-focused, especially as a manager, when you're over-focused on delivering compliance, when you're over-focused on making sure everything passes, you will not only miss opportunities to develop confidence in those around you. I used to have somebody that I worked with, and he would grab the keyboard. This was a bad habit of his. He was a leader. He was a brilliant technologist, super smart guy, but he would hit some point where he would feel flustered with the time it was taking and go, okay, well, we just need to get this done. Here, give me the keys. And every time he did that, he hurt the person he was working with by stealing an opportunity for them to develop that confidence. And as managers, it's hard. We have very little time. We don't have tons of free time. We don't have tons of leeway. And we're doing it for their good oftentimes. We want to hit our metrics. We don't want to break the process. We don't want to break the build. We're protecting them when we do that. But at a deeper level, we're really doing them a disservice. And so don't lose an opportunity to build confidence because you're too focused on that compliance. Third is conceit. I touched on this before when I was talking about humility. If you are very conceited in your ability, first off, you will tend to do the thing I said of dismissing your own experience, right? You're going to shove all of that in the closet because you don't want other people to know. You don't want to talk about the journey that you took. You don't want to talk about your failures. You're too prideful and focused on your success. So you're going to hide anything that led you to that success because in your mind, you are God's greatest gift to programming and you should be talking about this, and this all came to you overnight as though you were just had all this intelligence bestowed upon you in the night. But that, again, leads to not only diminishing the confidence available for others, because if we're always worried about propping ourselves up and talking about ourselves, and we're doing it in this dismissive way of the journey that you've taken, you're going to steal confidence from others. But it also sets a time bomb on your own confidence. Because as I was saying, if that's where you put your confidence, and if you highly value the appearance of competence because you're so conceited about your abilities, one day it's going to fail you, right? One day your skills will not be perfect. One day you're going to be learning something new. And so this could be a time bomb that erodes your own confidence. If you are so prideful and so conceited in your ability, just as much as that can help you in your mind, that can be your downfall the second things start to go south. And the fourth is control. Needing control. Again, this is a big one with managers, this is a big one with leaders. But again, needing the control of every little thing, needing to double check, micromanagement can be a huge thief of confidence. Because if we're always jumping in and we're always stepping on the toes of other engineers, that's not giving them that space. And if they missed a little bit of something, if they got the code formatting wrong on something, so they didn't run prettier, it can be easy to grab that repo, to go and make a PR, to explain or just fix it for them and kind of throw it away. but we need to relinquish control oftentimes to allow confidence to flourish. You can't control every aspect of things, and when you do, you're probably not giving as many opportunities for those around you to build confidence. All right, so I threw in one more fun one here. Some benchmarks, right? We got to benchmark our program. Now we've built confidence. We got to run some benchmarks and see what is the impact. So what is the impact of confidence? I am so grateful for the other amazing speakers at this conference and grateful that I didn't start my slide deck until yesterday afternoon because Sean Day kicked off the first day here with a keynote talk. And if you were there, you heard the story I'm going to talk about. I'll give a quick recap if anybody wasn't able to make that talk. Because without confidence, we miss opportunities. Sean Day shared a story of somebody that she knew through social media. She was hiring. She had a position. She messaged the person and said, hey, I want you to apply to this position. We're hiring. I'd love to have you on my team. And the response from the person was, give me 2 months. I'm not ready. When I heard that story, it broke my heart. And it really pissed me off. Because as somebody who works with a lot of career transitioners, I work with a lot of early stage devs, I really enjoy mentoring others and helping people in their journey. I realized how big of a mistake that was. Not only were they throwing away this opportunity, that's literally a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, especially in the current climate. Y'all know, Dax on Twitter has one of my favorite analogies for this. Today, when it comes to hiring, the front doors are all jammed. Everybody's trying to go in the front door. There's a huge amount of supply in the market. Everybody's shooting resumes in. If you go to LinkedIn and find the LinkedIn job postings, it's so wild to see the number of applications submitted because it's like 3,000 applications, right? Like, there's no chance that your resume is even going to get looked at. They'll take the top 5 or 10%, and half of them are probably overqualified anyways or lying, but there's a strong chance that your resume will never get looked at. So Dax spoke in a podcast about what's critical for job seekers in 2024. And he said the way to think about it is you need to find the side door. The job is still in there. There are still jobs out there. But if you go in the front door, you're going to get stuck in the crowd. So it's all about finding these side doors. Sean Day opened the greatest side door from a hiring manager, directly asking, please apply to this position. I already know you and want you to be there. That side door was propped wide open in the alley, and this person just looked at it and said, you know what, I'm not ready to walk through. And it really breaks my heart to think of how many opportunities like that. And it happens a lot more, right? It's not always big dramatic things like that. But in our day-to-day, there are so many opportunities, there are so many moments like that, where just by that simple thought of, you know what, I'm not ready, I shouldn't bother. I'm not going to be good enough, I shouldn't bother. There are conferences this year that I really would love to speak at, I would love to go to. And I watched the CFP come and go in the back of my mind thinking, I wouldn't get accepted anyways. Why bother submitting? You know what? I might have been accepted and I missed an opportunity there. I missed tangible opportunities for no reason other than a lack of confidence. And second, we hinder our own growth. So this is a big one. I think the reason that for technologists especially, confidence is so critical, it's so important, is because of what our path of growth and learning looks like and the fact that we need to be doing that forever, right? Our learning journey never stops in technology. And so the way you learn something, pick a new library, pick a new framework, pick a new language, the way you learn that is going to be reps. It's going to be doing things. What slows you down from getting reps? Fear. The number of times I've built something small and hit a wall and been like, I don't know what I'm doing here. This is super complex. I guess I didn't really understand what the library was doing under the hood. I'm gonna come back to this tomorrow. Or you know what, I'm gonna wait until somebody else can help me out with this. Or I'm just gonna throw it all together. I'm not smart enough to build with this tool. You know what, I'll go figure out an easier route. If we just have the blind confidence to run every bit of code we write, to test every little thing as we go, your learning will accelerate. Because oftentimes my biggest periods of stagnation in my journey, the biggest plateaus I've seen in my career, every single one of them was not marked by somebody else beating me up or demoting me. It wasn't by, some major health thing in my life. It was literally being scared and staying stuck and paralyzed because I was so scared to do the thing, to try the thing, deploy a prototype, play with the library, whatever it is. It slows down that growth. And so the more that we can move confidently in our career, not only is it going to make us open for more opportunities, able to jump at those opportunities when they arise, but it's going to speed up how quickly you are learning, and it's going to accelerate your growth. Going back to Brittany, the one that gave that TED Talk, whose definition I stole for confidence, she puts this really well on the impact or the negative impact a lack of confidence can have. A lack of confidence pulls us down from the bottom and weighs us down from the top, crushing us between a flurry of can'ts, won'ts, and impossibles. Without confidence, we get stuck. And when we get stuck, we can't even get started. Instead of getting mired in what can get in our way, confidence invites us to perform with certainty. We all operate a little differently when we're sure we can win versus if we just hope we will. This last bit I think is so critical, and especially for engineering leaders. I think the best organizations I've seen, the best leaders I've heard from, the peak inspiration I've seen given out at talks and keynotes and all of that, there's a confidence because there's a belief that I'm sure we can win. I'm sure we can reach this goal. The best CEOs around on stage, they might be just starting the planning process for the new initiative, but they come out with full conviction. They say, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. This is how it's happening. And that's because in that moment, they know they've committed to that goal. And to commit to a goal with your full confidence, with your full ability, is to set out and go, I know that we can win. I know that this goal can be accomplished. Not just I hope that this goal can be accomplished. And once you get that belief stuck in your head, once you know, no, victory is guaranteed and we're doing everything we can as fast as we can to get there, you move in an entirely different way. So what's next? If I had a confidence file, markdown file, confidence my crew, I need to change the owner of this. And for every one of you out there, I want you to think about this. What is your role in cultivating confidence? Not just for yourself. We talked a bit about that. You got to get those reps. You got to forgive yourself. You got to go light on yourself. Don't listen to your own excuses for why you found the success that you found. Don't listen to your own explanations of why something was a success and it didn't really have to do with how good you are at all, but it was just blind luck. But more than that, what is your role in cultivating confidence in your team, in your company, in your communities, whether it's Discord servers, a Twitter space that you go to, a study group? What role are you going to take moving forward in everybody that you interact with to make sure that you are giving them permission to have confidence, that you are encouraging them and affirming that confidence, and that you're giving them space to try confidence on, and you're allowing your confidence to be contagious, right? So how are you going to fill that role? And who are your recipients? So I've talked about this a couple times, but if you're a manager, your team is definitely a primary one here, right? That should be one of your primary objectives as a team leader. If you're an executive, if you're in tech leadership, if you're a CTO, you've got a whole organization you should be thinking about. Every time you show up to a meeting, your confidence can be contagious, or you could rob the confidence of others. So keep that in mind. Who are the recipients of confidence that you could be doling out as you are building the culture of cultivating confidence around you? Who is that it should be? Oftentimes for juniors, it can be your manager. Managers are not always confident. Anybody in here who is a manager, you know we need this talk as much as any junior. So even as a junior, you could think, wow, does my manager beat themselves up a lot? Are they always talking about how terrible they are at code and this and that? Yeah, they should do better at that. They should come and watch this talk, and hopefully they hear some of the encouragement of, hey, there's actually a lot of stuff you learn as a technologist. If you've been a developer, I feel totally inadequate with TypeScript stuff, right? But I've been making websites for 17 years. And it turns out no matter how much I beat myself up, I did actually learn 1 or 2 things in those 17 years. Who are the recipients that you're going to give confidence to? And finally, who will you help to replicate this process with what you've learned today? Who can you share? Hey, we need to look for space that we can create to help others build confidence. Oh, cool, let's do some more pair coding, right? Hey, we need to affirm our team members on the things that they're working on. Rather than checking the checklist of compliance when we do our sprint review, making sure everything was delivered, what would it look like to have a space where each of us just shares something good somebody else on the team did? With my team, we did daily stand-ups, and my favorite stand-up every week was Friday, because we decided that Fridays were going to be fist bump Fridays. So every Friday stand-up, everybody would give their normal report. Here's what I did yesterday, here's what I'm doing today, here's my blockers. But item number 4 that you had to give on Fridays, you had to give somebody else a fist bump. So you had to affirm somebody else on the team for what they had done that week. And that was a little bit. I don't even think I can take credit for that. I think one of my teammates may have come up with the idea. But that little bit offered so much. And the number of times I saw somebody address an incident or a pull review or something that another person had done and say, hey, it really helped me out when you did that thing this week. And the number of times I saw a look of shock on the recipient's face. They forgot they did that, or they didn't think it had any effect. But to hear somebody else come to you, and again, like with imposter syndrome, it's that external validation, creating spaces for that and helping others know you can grant confidence. You can help your manager feel better about their skills. Let them know when they've done a really good job of teaching you a concept. Just be like, hey, that was an amazing explanation. I really was struggling to wrap my head around this thing, and the way you walked me through it was really good. The way you looked at our code base. So he's debugging with you, right? Hey, thanks so much for that debugging session. You found that thing right away. I really respect how much you understand the ins and outs of our code base. These are all opportunities to help cultivate confidence in those around us. Now I'm going to end you with some of my favorite song lyrics. This is one of my favorite songs right now. I listen to it on repeat. It's absolutely amazing. It's called These Days by Connor Price. So he's a rapper, and I'm not going to rap for you all today. My apologies. But this song, I was playing it when everybody walked in, but with just the MacBook speakers, I don't think it's super audible. But I love this song. This is like my motivational song right now. I listen to it, and it's absolutely amazing. But 2 key parts in the song that really stick out to me. He says, I got it. Yeah, they know I got it. Confidence contagious, so the ones around me caught it. When I first heard this song, I think I almost cried when I heard that bar, because I'd been looking at confidence already. I'd seen Brittany's talk. I'd seen the impact to people in our organization of not having confidence. I saw engineers totally stalled. I saw engineers sink an entire sprint into research because they lacked confidence, when I know for a fact they could have implemented things. They gave a 30-minute PowerPoint at the end of their sprint instead of having the code. And it was just a spike ticket, right? So it's this research ticket. That was their task. They weren't failing to complete the task. But I looked at their work and I was like, you spent so much time over-analyzing and over-learning because you never felt confident, when I can show you right here on step 5, you had the right recommendation. Right here, step 5, you identified the best thing to do. You identified the best way to do it. At that point, you should have stopped researching and done the thing. One of these guys, he spent 3 weeks on this project. I implemented the code for what he was researching while he was giving the presentation. And I told him, I was like, I loved all your recommendations. I think I agree with all of them. By the way, here's a PR. You want to get it in? And so we were able to get that thing in on the same sprint, even though he only thought he was going to be doing research. But ironically, he easily could have done that before the presentation, right? He had all the knowledge, he had all the information, he had the right approach, the right strategy. It was just a lack of confidence where he didn't believe. And this was staff level, by the way, staff engineer. And I talked to my friend, I was just like, dude, do the thing. Like, literally do the thing. It might be wrong, it might be bad, you might have to fix something, but you need that confidence to actually make the moves and do the thing. Confidence contagious, so the ones around me caught it. I set a goal, but still I never feel enough when I get it. And later he goes on to say, this is my favorite line of the whole song, I don't make mistakes, the mistakes made me. Drop songs when I write them. I don't wait 8 weeks. So don't give yourself that delay. Don't give yourself that extra space. You did a thing, launch the thing. You learned some code, run the code. Get rid of those gaps that happen because of a lack of confidence. Get rid of one of the best optimizations you can do in your learning journey in your career. Optimize away your uncertainty, right? Optimize the uncertainty away because you're just going to be learning even faster, and this is the reality right here. I don't make mistakes, the mistakes made me. It's true for where I'm at today. I've made tons of mistakes. I am who I am today because of those mistakes. Drop songs when I write them, I don't wait 8 weeks. Don't wait until you're ready. Remember the person that Shonda reached out to. All they said was they're not ready. Well, guess what? You'll never be ready. Somebody told me this with parenthood. We have 2 amazing kids. We've got a 3-year-old and a 14-month-old. And before having kids, you talk to other parents and you're just like, oh, what is it? I don't feel ready. Every single parent came out with the same thing. Oh yeah, you'll never be ready. And it is absolutely the truth. Now I'm telling that to other parents that are expecting. Do not wait until you're ready because you'll never be ready. This goes for leadership. This goes for writing your code. This goes for learning new technologies. And this goes for finding those opportunities and taking them and grabbing onto those opportunities when they pop up. They too focused on the image now, but that ain't me. Don't be too focused on your image. Focusing on your image is what leads to that conceit, right? It's the early stages of it, but again, stop thinking about how you look on a pair coding session. Start thinking about what the other person's learning. Stop thinking about how smart people are going to think you are based on your tweets or your LinkedIn posts or whatever social media you're doing. Stop thinking about having the perfect video before you post it and just post videos. That last one's for me. I'm really bad at it. If you go to my YouTube, it's embarrassing because it's only 3 vlogs and I stopped recording. But you know what stopped me from recording? Not the ability to push the record button, not the ability to say words in front of a camera, not even a lack of words. I have tens of thousands of words of scripts that I have written that I haven't recorded anything about. Because in the back of my mind, I'm waiting until it's going to be perfect to then record a video. Well, guess what? I need this talk as much as anybody in this room today. Yesterday, I felt so unconfident. I did not know what I was doing with my life. I was like, this is stupid. What am I doing? I don't know why I'm here. No, don't focus on the image. Focus on the reps. Are you doing reps? Perfect. That's your success metric. Did you do more reps today? Great. Were the reps failing to get it to compile? Sure. Doesn't matter. You were getting the reps in. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself from the past. And look for opportunities to build confidence. Create spaces for others to try confidence on. And finally, thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I didn't say unicorn. Oh, I just want to say that everybody in here, you are a special unicorn with a set of abilities that only you have. There is so much you are capable of. Give yourself permission to have confidence because it's not due to your competence. You should be confident because of who you are and the intrinsic value that you carry as a human being. I want to quickly thank our sponsors. Again, check them out. They're the reason we're here. And if you're free, that conference is happening in Wisconsin. I'm applying to give a talk here. I'm hoping to make it out there. And I hope to see all of you there. Finally, I've got all of my links. And I guess that brings us to the end of the talk. So thank you so much for being here. And yeah.